etc. I can't tell you enough good things about John McClain, but he said a lot of good things about himself in a farewell column. It was March 31st, 76 days ago. Is this the last one? This is the last one.
Oh, hell
as far as we
no.
know of. Because, I mean, after a while, people run out of good things to say, which is why I'm here. Let me talk about that farewell column for a second, all right? I actually wrote it down. Oh, well, a little bit of it. This is what he wrote in his farewell column. And it was really, really touching. He went through all the great columnists that he worked with. So let me read from it. One of the best things about my job was covering games with columnists Ed Fowler, Mickey Herskowitz, Richard Justice, Fran Blindberry, Brian T. Smith, Dale Robertson, and Jerome Solomon. John, I was sitting right next to you. I was sitting right next to you for 10 years. Hand to God. Go back and look at it. I first met John McClain, and I remember it very, very vividly. January 13th, 1989. And the reason I remember it is because I learned that day. I've seen him before, talked to him, chatted him in press boxes when I was working in San Antonio before I came to the Chronicle. Excuse me, it was 1990. It was January 13th, 1990. And the reason I remember it is because I learned that day why he's the general. So, and he's going to call this a lie, but it's not. Okay? Checking into the downtown Denver Marriott. And you have to realize I'm coming from San Antonio where it's a really, really tight budget. So I was working my ass off trying to get a really, really cheap hotel rate. I got a $79 rate. I was really happy. So I'm checking in, and to my right is John McClain. And I tell him, nice to see you again, blah, blah, blah. And he had a $205 rate. And he turns to the lady behind the counter and she says, "Give him my rate." I said, "John, I got a $79 rate. Doesn't matter. More Marriott points." So I realized I'm in the big time now in the huge Houston market. We go up to the hospitality room, have a couple of drinks. He sits right in front of me, leans down. "Welcome to Houston," which you're not welcome until John McClain says it. "Heard nothing but good things about you. I know you're an Aggie. That's all right. Let me tell you how we do things. If you can get a higher rate, get it. If you need a rent car, get it, even if I have one. We get $25 for breakfast, $25 for lunch, and $50 for dinner. Use it, even with fake receipts." So I really want to thank John for putting at least 1.5 of my kids through college.
And all these years, I thought it was the internet that was putting newspapers out of business. A little bit how it was John McClain's expense account.
So I want to wish you, Dustin, I would like to wish you all there is to wish for a person in his latter years. I gotta say this, God is good.
All the time.
John, I have to say this, I had 2 cancers about 6 months ago, a year ago. And I was in the hospital like 3.5 months. And I thought I'd never see the light of day again. And John would call, players would come by, and I had a vision. I felt like I was there. So I'm happy. It didn't matter. As a matter of fact, this is the first time I've been out speaking in almost 2 years. I'm gonna even be here, let alone be able to come to a roller coaster. Let alone walk up those stairs. Hope my insurance person didn't see me. No, but listen, thank you guys for everything that you do. And John, thank you, and we wish you the very best. Thank you so much.
Toaster or roaster or whatever. Anyway, I'm so glad that I have the opportunity to be here tonight and just hope you find my voice. As you get older, you find out voices go, back goes, shoulder, everything, all those good licks that I was passing out, they're all coming back. So,
John is the general, so you do what the general tells you to do, and everybody knows that, but calling in two Hall of Famers is absolutely impossible. Thank you, that was great. Thank you, Sean. Where do you start? What do you say? We're celebrating the 500-year career of John McClain. 500 years, the Chronicle, that is amazing. So the best stories aren't going to get told, and I still believe, maybe I'll tell it one day, I still believe there's a story about Jerry Glanville that he is not told, that hopefully he will do at some point. That's the best story I've ever heard in my life. Since John's retired, he's done amazing things. He throws a better first pitch than Dr. Fauci. and 50 Cent, that's pretty awesome. He shoots a better free throw than Shaquille O'Neal. And, John's had more parties and celebrations than the Queen of England. Hall of Fame, everybody give it up for Dr. Doom!
And here you go, John. I've been prepared for speeches and introductions for most of my life. And it's always been hard for me to link words together to really tell people like you, John, how much I love them and appreciate them. So, John, if I make one small mistake, I want you to remember this. I'm trying so hard to get it right just for you. For the night.
I got to thinking about when I first met John, and it was about 20 years ago, and he reached out to me on Instagram and was looking for a massage.
Everybody, thank you. Great to be here. First off, John, you invite me here. Okay, you make me the seventh speaker. You give me one freaking beer at my table. Also, where's Lopez at? I can take anything Lopez, but you're wrong. I was a starter on that championship. I was a starting holder, and I went out there 4 plays. Anyway, it's great to be here. When you were a backup in the NFL for 9 years, you were a blue jacket, and I'm going to fit right in here for a few minutes. John, I really appreciate it. John called me about a month ago, told me about this. And he's such a class act. He ripped my ass for 8 years and he said, I want you to toast me.
You know, I'm a big fan too. When I look at some of these players and stuff, I'm like my heroes. Okay, my childhood heroes. Dan, the work you do, the calls that you have going on, the great people in this room, the class that's in this room is really special. You know, Dan, I looked up to Dan as a kid. You know, I'm not that much, I'm not that far from him. But I gotta tell you guys, my first experience in pro football, this is it. I was a ball boy for the Houston Oilers. And we went to San Angelo. And back in those days, the rookies came in and practiced for about a week before the vets came in. So I'm out there with the rookies and we're practicing. The vets are coming in the next day. And we're in the huddle. The guys are in the huddle. I'm like running balls back and forth. And all of a sudden, here comes a freaking motorcycle across the field right at the huddle. And it was Dan. And Bum is cussing. He's just ripping me at that. Dan's laughing. And I thought, you know what? This pro football, I want to be a part of it. Somebody said something about, Robert, I remember that towel hanging down to your ankles when you played. And when, you know, somebody said, they're right. You know, you think Lawrence Taylor changed the way people protected the quarterback in football. Robert Brazil did that as well. He was amazing. Some of these great players that are here tonight, I have so much respect for you. Me and Joe Green sitting over in the corner, okay? I promise you I'm smart enough not to say something about me and Joe Green. But I do have to tell you a great story. It brings back some of my old football memories. I was a rookie with the Denver Broncos. I made the team as the third quarterback. That guy didn't play, okay? But I was on the team, all right? Elway was our starter. Steve DeBerg, a 15-year veteran. Dan, I'm sure you know Steve. He was our backup. We flew to Pittsburgh for opening day to play the Steel Curtain. And I think it was Joe's last year. And I remember we checked in the hotel, and in those days you didn't get your own room. So I'm rooming with DeBerg, and I barely know him. We're up in our room that night. DeBerg gets up in his underwear, and he's got some change in his hand. And he says, hey, Rook. He says, I'm going down the hall. I act like I'm getting something to drink. He says, if I'm not back in 10 minutes, look out that window, okay, and throw me those clothes. So this is my first game as a pro football player. So 10 minutes later, no DeBerg. I look out the window. He's in his underwear in the bushes. He said, throw the clothes. So I throw the clothes. And he's like, throw the brown shoes. So I throw the brown shoes. Well, DeBerg's out all night long. He comes in the next morning. He says, hey, Rook, wake me when the last bus is leaving. So to make a long story short, we get on the bus, we go to the game. In the first half, Joe, we did not get a first down. Elway started the game, we had 0 first downs. We were losing 10-0. At halftime, Dan Reeves put Steve DeBerg in. He threw 2 touchdowns. We won 14-10. I said, holy shit, this is pro football.
That's like Royce.
Here somewhere tonight. I heard that Jim is going to be here. Matthew Mack here. He's on his way. Okay, well, Matthew Mack, he's a Longhorn. I'm an Aggie. You don't know how that stuff is. Okay, but and what I did for a living, I was away from Houston for about 8 years, other than when I was the head coach here. I had so much respect for Matthew Mack and what he's done for this city. I mean, absolutely. I wanted to tell Matthew Mack something he doesn't know. I'm a legend over at Gallery Furniture. Okay? When I was at St. Pius High School growing up and dating my lovely wife Rhonda, she lived on Witcher Lane, which was right behind Gallery Furniture. And there was a dumpster on the back side of the building, and when times got hot and heavy, that was mine on the spot, right there at Gallery Furniture. Until HPD found out I was hell over there. And some other great people here tonight. Obviously, it's always all these 6'10" assholes. I mean, guys. All right, who am I roasting? Two things, John. Two things that come to mind when I think about you. You know, in 2006, when Paul McNair called me and offered me the job to become the head coach of Houston Texans, and I took the job, I started looking for people that could give me great advice. So I started talking to coaches, and I had worked for Shanahan for many years. I had worked for Bill Walsh, and I talked to both of them. They gave me a lot of ideas and stuff. But both Shanahan and Walsh told me one thing. They said, Coop, the most important thing when you get to that city as a head coach is you have to find somebody that covers that team. Somebody that you respect, okay? Somebody that you can talk to, somebody you can work with. It will make your job, so much better, okay, as you go about, daily routine of what you're doing. They're going to get after you, but you need somebody like that. And I always thought, if I would have chose Berman, my ass might still be here today. Quarterback drawing beat us in overtime. It was a great game, we beat it, he made a great play, I woke up the next morning, F minus. So I thought, God dang, this is kind of addictive, So I started digging around and I started asking people where this came from. I talked to a couple of sports writers and they really didn't know, and finally I just, hell, I'm gonna call Carol. So I gave Carol a call. And I asked her, where did this crazy grading system come from that John had? She said, that came from me. I said, really? She goes, yeah, I'm going to send you something. So Carol sent me this little book, okay, that sat by their bedside for many, many years, okay? I opened this book, New Year's Eve, 2021. C+, he had too much to drink. John's birthday, 2022, F minus, all about him. Well, you had a few bad performances in your day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this. I respect John. John's a friend of mine. But I respect him. He works hard. A lot of guys, when you're a coach and you sit in these press conferences every day and you do all this stuff, there's some guys that show up every now and then, okay? Don't want to ask you a question or want to ask you why you did this. John's there every day. John worked really hard, and I respect that. And the other thing, and I think it was said here tonight, John loves Houston. He wanted you to win. Yeah. He wanted me to win, I know that. And a lot of ways, John, I was thinking about this coming up here. Andre Johnson's one of my favorite players ever coached. One of the things that stood out about Andre Johnson is he could have picked himself up and went anywhere he wanted to be a great player. And John, I'm sure you could have been a lot of places in your life, but you stay right here and you give this city a lot. You've done so many things. So I respect you a great deal, okay? So to you and Carol, congratulations, job well done. And you know what, John? Yeah, let's get an A+ tonight. Let's put it on.
John, that's how you retire. Right? I don't know where Mattress Mac is, but if he's placing a bet on first person to curse at the toast of John McClain, I hope he took your enthusiasm. I got the retirement blues. Where they'll end, I don't know. Haven't had this much free time since I was a boy in Waco. Still doing stints on 610 with Pendergast to run the show. The Houston fans, they love me, treat me like I'm king of the palace. Good thing they've all forgotten that I used to root for Dallas. I've been yeah, my life is such a snoozer. Good thing on the radio, I can still call people a punk jerk and a loser. So
still doing stuff about the Texans, like shows with Harris and Vandy, because I really like it that Lovie Smith is from Big Sandy. I've got the retirement. Woo! Yeah, I don't know. Feels like the '93 playoffs after halftime at Buffalo. I conveniently left out Kansas City from that equation. I was reading on Texans game day. Some people think I'm being unfair. Well, you know, I certainly wouldn't do it if I was watching the Baylor Bears. I've got the retirement. I'm not here to give a sermon. I'll put my keyboard away and let the stories get broken by Mark Burden. I've been in a lot of movies. Maybe I'll get back to that, I reckon. Till they find out my total screen time added up to 24 seconds. I've got the retirement. The value of which is nominal. At least now when I lose a bet, I won't have to eat the Houston Chronicle.
One thing about John, I never knew him when I was at Baylor. John was in high school in Waco. And when I first met John after he came to Houston, I was with the Oilers. It may have been after the Oilers. I don't even know if it was. But he would come up to me, or he came up to me and told me, he said, "True," he said, "we used to sneak into Baylor Stadium when you were playing, when I was in high school." I don't know, who were we playing, John? Do you remember the game? TCU? Who was it? Wake up, John. Okay. Junior high, okay. You are a lot younger than me. But when I first met John in Houston, he said, "True," he said, "you know," he said, "I was in high school, we sneak in, or junior high, and we sneak into Baylor Stadium to see Baylor play football games." And he said, after somebody we beat, he said, "I came up to you on the field and I asked for your chin strap." And you said, "Get the hell out of here." And I apologize for that. But Baylor, as it was, we were instructed, when he came out to me that time, I don't remember who he was, you know, there were kids running around everywhere. But I did give him his chin strap. So John, come up here a minute. I didn't give you a chin strap, John, and I apologize. But I won't give you my helmet, okay?
Don was talking about the early years. The early years here, I came in 1971. I was drafted by the New York Mets out of high school in 1967. I was picked in the 39th round. They drafted me as a shortstop. They wanted to make me a pitcher. And
Didn't have an arm.
I was like guy sitting back there in the dark corner by the door. Buddy, you know what? Joe Green is a friend of mine. And that was kind of rough. You know, you haven't lived, you know, till you've gone through 4-9-1 my first year, 1-13, 1-13. And that really was questioning my job choices. So then a guy by the name of Bum Phillips comes along and changes everything around, and we start becoming respectable, and then playing Pittsburgh, you know, 1978, 1979, we had to play the Pittsburgh Steelers 3 times, okay? 2 times is enough hospital visits for a year. But we were all pretty wounded when we had to play those guys. In fact, the first time we ever played the Pittsburgh Steelers, Joe Green hit me in the back. I mean, he had a great shot, a great sack and all that, and he broke 3 transverse processes. And it's on your spinal thing. broke them off. I couldn't piss for a week. And now my buddy Joe comes in and helps us raise money for our kids. God bless him.
Now, my wife swears I have a gambling problem. That's why I have this Astro shirt on. You get 2 extra money back. No, I don't have a gambling problem. I just have a sports promotion problem. And knowing that John is a huge Astros fan, I asked John last October, after the Astros got in the World Series, if I should hedge part of my $36 million bet on the Astros to win the World Series by betting the part on the Braves if they won, so I could at least get the money back that I bet. Either way, the customers would get their money back, and I'd be paid back my initial investment if the Astros won. John said, "No, Mac, the Astros got this." Other than that, how was the play, Miss Lincoln? So then came the national championship game. It was Alabama against Georgia. I couldn't read the Houston Chronicle or Cron.com because I was broke and they took back my subscription. So I couldn't read John's pick of Georgia. I took Alabama. That was $6.5 million. Then the biggest game of all came, the Super Bowl. Rams and Bengals in LA. I occasionally call John, he knows what I'm calling about. I said, "John, what do you think?" He said, "The Rams got this." But the tone of his voice just wasn't very convincing to me. I lost $12 million on the game. Help me, Johnny. Now, you know, if I'd have won those 3 bets with John's help, I could have maybe paid half of Deshaun Watson's legal fees. In all seriousness, I can't read on there, right?
This is how much John McClain meant to and means to my family. So after the very first show that I get done doing in Sports Radio 610, the first thing I do is I call my dad. My dad's my most loyal fan, listens to every show, listened to all the shows when I was on my previous station, so he was dialed in that day. Mrs. Pendergast, baby boy, is on Sports Radio 610. I'm listening in, baby. So I call my dad, and I can't wait to get the words of praise. Answers the phone. Hello? I say, "Dad, did you listen?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What do you think?" He goes, "I love the general." I said, "Yeah, but what did you think of me?" He goes, "I love the general." He's getting Yankee tickets after that. That was over the top when he invited me for Thanksgiving. But that was, and so then, fast forward 2 or 3 months later, this is John McClain kind of transcending the generations in the Pendergast household. Like 3 months later, we are at a remote at Nick's place in April, and my son Sammy was in from out of town. He was 13, I think, at the time. Little squirt, big sports fan. And I have 2 sons, and we've been on a group text for about 8 years. And anytime something happens in sports, my sons text me, and we've got conversations going back years and years. They're in their 20s now, they graduated from college. But Sammy comes and visits, he comes to the remote. It's a remote that we're doing with John. Rich and Ted and I are doing the show, and John's kind of just sitting there eating a calzone or something there, waiting to do his hour with us on the air, and over walks Sammy and sits down with John over there, and I'm thinking to myself, Sammy, John. So he's sitting there with John, and he's talking to him, and they're having a great conversation. John told me what a nice gentleman Sammy was. And all of a sudden, like in the next week or so, I'm getting fewer and fewer texts from Sammy. Sammy used to text me, it was around draft time, I remember. He used to text me with like inside scoop, like, what's going on with Johnny Manziel? It was 2014, the Texans had the first pick in the draft. And he would always text me, and all of a sudden the texts from Sammy were like dwindling. I wasn't getting as many anymore. And I texted him one day and I said, hey, Squirt, everything cool? Like, do you need any more info? He's like, no, I've been texting McClain. It's all good.
It means so much to see you here. Thank you. Elvin, my first training camp at Dan Mitchell was 1977. Back then they played 6 preseason games. They had a week of rookie camp, and the camp was like 8 weeks long. First night I got there, I was back in the kitchen watching black and white TV. The guy comes, sits down next to me, and I said, my name is John McClain from the Chronicle. And he said, Wade. That's how I met Wade. Wade doesn't remember that, but he's heard me tell the story so much. Wade's here tonight. Wade's going to coach our XFL team. Good luck, Wade. Wade's one of the all-time great defensive coordinators in NFL history. And even though he claims he doesn't know his winning percentage as a head coach was .562, he damn sure does. So my first camp was 77. First night I get there, they told me, don't come back without a story from Dan Pastorini. And I heard things about Dan. Some of them I would have loved to talk to about off the field and off the record. And the other one was how tough he was on media. And he hadn't talked to me since the previous season. They said, don't come back without a story from Pastorini. So it took me like 3 days to approach him. But meanwhile, Elvin comes in and he has a press conference. The media's in there, and I've never seen the players as mad as Elvin was. And he's ripping up Bud Adams, honor, signs his checks and everything. Well, here's what happened. Elvin was holding out. And when it came down to the nitty-gritty, Bud told him, Elvin, you should be a cattleman like me. You should be thinking about when your career's over and think about raising cattle like I do. And Elvin's over there rubbing his chin going, yeah, I could be a cattleman. And so he took the cattle, signed the contract, got, I think, an $84,000 signing bonus. Problem was, those cattle were malnourished and not worth a damn. So he got duped, and then when he went to get his signing bonus from the controller of the franchise, who became the general manager, that person, he handed Elvin his check for like $84,000, and he said, by the way, he took it out of Elvin's hand and says, this is what the feed costs for the cattle. So no wonder Elvin was mad. And I thought, that is one mean SOB. I got to steer clear of him, and I did. So the story about Dan did come down there and he brought the beer and we talked, and he was great. It's like he just wanted to talk. He opened the vein and just led. And I wrote the story and I sent it back. And it wasn't because of what I did. I just ran his quotes together. And the bosses told me later, and I told this to Dan a few years ago, I said, well, what would have happened if I had gotten the story with Pastorini? And they said, well, you probably never would have covered the Oilers. So I got to thank Dan Pastorini for doing the story with me. Who the Oilers always will be. And Gary Kubiak, I didn't know you were that funny. One time they beat Bears and Lovett Smith, and afterward, Gary's in the news conference in the big auditorium. And before he could answer, they always let me answer the first question. Gary goes, with this smug smirk on his face, bet you didn't know I let Kyle call the plays, did you? I said, you got your ass kicked, would you have told us that? Next question. How many coaches in NFL history have won Super Bowls
position coach, as a coordinator and as a head coach, and has been in the Super Bowl with the players. Gary was in so many, and I always wondered, Gary, where do you have all your rings? And you know, they say behind every successful man is a woman, and that's why I'm the Kukiak. Such a class act. That family is one of the greatest families I've ever met. And Gary, that speech, boy, that's a C minus. Don True was my first football hero. And when I met him down here, I told him the story about jumping out of the end zone over the wall and rushing out. We tried to get chin straps and wristbands to players. And I went up to Don, I called him Mr. True, and I was 13 years old. I was in the 8th grade. And not only did he tell me to get away, he kicked me in the ass.